I'm so excited to be here with you for our first live class of 2024. Woo, y'all, I'm so excited. We had a few technical difficulties called user error, called didn't plug things in right, called whatever happened. Y'all know my theory about being late. It's all if you don't, nobody cares about why you're late. They just care that you were. But anyway, if you're listening to me after the fact, forget I said that. But if you're with me live, I want to thank you for being here. I'm so excited for today's class because we are talking about my favorite, favorite way to build wealth in the United States, and that is real estate investing. Now, before we do, I've got a confession to make. I've also got a very exciting announcement, and I don't know if I can give it today, but y'all, we've got some exciting changes coming down the pike. Can I give you a hint? I think I can give you a hint, okay? Remember a couple months ago when I said these are going to be our theme mugs? This is going to be our theme for 2024? Well, Jesus is Lord. Cash is King is still going to be our theme for 2024, right? So if you want your sweatshirts and your t-shirts, those are coming soon. But the reason you don't have them yet is because the rest of the design is not going to be our valid information going forward. We're going to be launching a new website. I thought it was going to be done before the start of the year, y'all. But not Google, GoDaddy is a hot mess. So I went on record as saying that they make it very difficult to do what I need to do with my domain that we purchased. And I'm excited to tell you all about that, but I got to get it done first. You know what I mean? A lot of times we talk, but sometimes people just want to see that you actually did the thing. So what I'm going to do, one of the things I was trying to do before class is I've got a ton of people that have come into the group and I need to let them in, and I was trying to let them in and the time escaped me. So I'm going to let the last couple in, and then while I'm doing that, I'm going to share with you this wonderful video from back in the day when my 18-year-old, y'all, when my 18-year-old was 9 years old. All right, let's see if I can share this video. Drop in the chat if you can hear it, okay? Because I want to make sure that you can hear it. Okay, to share audio, share a tab or a screen instead. Yes, I want to share the Baltimore Rehab. Okay, this is Throwback Thursday, y'all. Check it out. All right, all right, all right. Well, um, I discuss. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? Hold on. What did I do? No sound. And I didn't see the comments because I tried to click away from the I tried to click away from it, and it didn't. Every time I clicked away from YouTube, it would stop showing y'all the video. All right, here's what I'm going to do. That didn't work. It didn't work for two reasons. Well, see, that's the thing. I needed sound on the video, not just me. Y'all probably heard me trying to get these people into the group. That's not what I wanted you to hear. Like, I thought I had me a slick solution to the fact that I still needed to add some people to the group. All right, I'm going to drop this into the chat. It's an old video. Clearly, I was 8 months pregnant then with the little one. And yeah, talk about things that I did not expect to go wrong. That house was supposed to have closed in summer when my husband was with me in Virginia during his teacher break. The house didn't close until August. I didn't know I was going to get pregnant in March. When we first started doing the house, it was March, and I didn't know I was going to get pregnant. I mean, in February we started negotiating. We thought we were going to close sometime in May, and then we got pregnant. And for anybody who knows my story, my 18-year-old was my miracle baby. 8 years I cried out asking the Lord to give me that boy. And then some years I cried out, Lord, please take him back. But but for a long time I couldn't have kids. I kept losing them. And I've lost 4. And so I have my miracle baby, and I was like, okay, we're good. And then I get married to somebody who couldn't have kids in his previous marriage. I had a stepson, so I know her, but they couldn't have kids. And yeah, I just thought that was done, and got pregnant, and then the house closing delayed, and then he had to go back to Stephenville. And next thing you know, I'm renovating a house pregnant. And to make it worse, this pregnancy, I was very sensitive to cleaning solutions, which turned out to be a blessing because I ended up hiring domestic help. Win. Like, I totally kept that domestic help after the pregnancy was over, y'all. That was such a blessing. But today, but yeah, so it was a very difficult time to renovate a house as a pregnant woman in a culture where women aren't necessarily that well respected, and in an area town that's kind of rough. And man, those were the days. But I tell you what, I got the job done. And over the years, that house has made me over $100,000. So this stuff works. And if you work it, and today what we're going to talk about 20 plus ways that you can invest in real estate, even if you don't buy the house. 20 plus ways that you can profit from real estate, even if you don't buy the house. We're going to be talking about real estate investing 101. And so what we're doing today is a overview. So we're going to quick hit all these different things, and then throughout the rest of the year we're going to cover the topics. Now, if you want accelerated access to the topics, you've got 2 things you can do. Okay, you can join our group coaching program, which will give you access to the previous courses, or you can go out to YouTube, which will give you last year's courses. Okay, but if you have access to our group coaching program, then our group coaching program will give you access to all the courses. All right, that's one of the perks you get. Now, I know some of you, let me just say right off the bat, I want to thank people who will give feedback. Can I just thank people who will give feedback? Because I have been so excited about launching our group program. I know a lot of you have been waiting for the one-on-one program, but the one-on-one coaching, that's more focused and more intensive. And for me, I'm still slugging through the doctorate, so I've opened up the wait list, and I finally opened up the application. But last year, I didn't take any new one-on-one clients because I always want to serve with excellence. Well, I opened up the group coaching, I think, at the end of last year, and we have had people steady enrolling, right? I had no idea you weren't getting the emails and the things that you were supposed to get until yesterday or today. Someone was like, hey, what about this? When do I get this? How come I don't have that? Aren't I supposed to get this? I thought you said I get that. And I'm like, well, yeah, you get this. Oh, you get all the things. Well, we got a new system going into place. And guess what? It doesn't work right all the way right yet. It will, but I won't know those kind of things if you don't tell me those kind of things. So I know sometimes in the past you've had questions, you've had concerns, you have maybe failed to read whatever it was that you signed up for, and you thought you were getting this, but you actually got that. If you don't ask me the question, I'm not going to know. But I've been the person who has misread my stuff, or I read it perfectly and screenshotted your sales copy before you took it down, and I know what you owe me, and you didn't deliver what you owed me. And some people, when you bring it up, they're like, okay, fine, I'm gonna refund you. You are not gonna be my client anymore, because I don't want clients who cause me any work. And that's how a lot of people are. Now, look, if you're here for real estate, I'm gonna talk about real estate in just a second, but this is a really important teaching point. And if you're listening on the podcast, then I encourage you to come find this lesson on YouTube, the Real Estate Investing 101 from January 18th, because I'm going to have some slides later, okay? But this teaching point is important. If you are trying to find someone to help you take your life to the next level, you got to understand that what most of these people are expecting are people to come into their funnel who are never going to do anything with what they do. Now, I'm not knocking that. You want to pay me and not do anything with what I give you? I'm really okay with that. I really am. But I want people to have results, okay? And so when you go to some of these folks and you want certain things that you were promised, or you want certain access that you were promised, and you're too needy, and they find a way to dump you from the system or pawn you off on somebody else. And I don't ever want to be that person. So if I promise you something and I don't deliver, please let me know. Count it to my head and not my heart. Count it to being busy. Count it to being on this crazy elimination diet. Like, I am so over the no sugar, no soy, no dairy, no what else can I have? No grains, no flour, no corn. I'm like, it's meat and veggies, and not even all the veggies, y'all. It's not even all the veggies, not even fruit. I was so excited. I ate me a little grape to break the fast last week because I was woozy. I hadn't eaten, and I was about to facilitate financial peace. And I get home and read no fruit, and I'm like, got to start all over again. So, count it to any one of those things. All right. But please, please, please don't ever think that I'm going to be upset with you for clarifying. All right. And also, please, 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 if you are one of the people that has signed up for group coaching in the last 2 months, there are things that haven't connected right to get you where you need to go. And some of that's because we're developing a new course system. So we had a course system, we're developing a new course system. All right. If you're in the old course system, that you still have access to it, you're going to have access to it for life as long as that company is in business. All right. And if you're a new client, you were supposed to be put in the queue to be put in the new system. And it's just not where I need it to be yet. Okay. So the emails didn't go out the way they were supposed to. You were supposed to get a, hey, you're going to get all this stuff once we get the system working. And some of y'all didn't even get that. So if you're missing something, if I owe you something, please now be polite about it and be nice about it, okay? Because the energy you put out is the energy you get back. I'm gonna try to be nice anyway, but the energy you put out into the universe is the energy you're gonna get back. The way the Lord designed the universe, the way you put it out is the way it comes back. And so if you want people to lift you up and help you and connect you and get you where you need to go, then work on maintaining the relationships. But don't stew if you got sales copy from me that said you're gonna get XYZ and you still haven't seen it. All right. All right, we in this together, y'all. Okay, so I think I've talked about that long enough. Oh, y'all, I wish I could share with you my big announcement. Oh, I wish I could share it. I'm just so excited. I'm so excited about the changes that are coming. And so I've already kind of let one cat slip out of the bag, because I kind of let the fact that our website is being updated, I let that come out of the bag. But the other thing is that I've got something big. I mean, like, this is put you on the map kind of big. And if you're trying to build a business, When my business grows, your business can grow. As I get access to higher platforms and I get access to more uh, um, people with more access and people with more influence, you also get to have more access and more influence. We really are in this all together. Okay, let me stop that screen real quick and let me go ahead and pull up my real estate investing slides. And again, if you're just joining us and you missed the where is it? If you're just joining us and you missed my discussion at the beginning, my announcements, we are covering Real Estate Investing 101. Real estate is one of my favoriteest things as far as building wealth. Now, I am a big fan of set it and forget it in the stock market. I really am, because you know why? That money come out of your account, you don't even miss it, right? I like that kind of investing. That's going to take you so far. And if you start when you're younger, that's going to take you really far with really little work. So any of my 20-year-olds watching today, any of my 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds watching today, get on that, set it and forget it. Make sure you put something into the stock market every month. You know, if you put in $100 to $200 a month, you will retire a multi-millionaire. And the earlier you start, the more you'll have. Now, that assumes that the world system lasts until then. You know, I mean, I don't know. The apocalypse could come. Jesus could come. I don't know that we'll all be here 40 years from now. But I know one thing. If you're going to be here 40 years from now, you're going to be 40 years older. You ought to have something. Fair enough? All right. Let me pull up those slides and we're going to talk about real estate investing. All right. Real estate investing. Y'all, I'm so excited. Why am I so excited about this? Why did I skip some slides that talk about why I'm so excited about it? Well, okay. That didn't work the way I wanted it to. Well, let me just tell you why I'm so excited about real. No, wait a second. I bet you they're later on in it. Are they later on in it? Yeah, they're later on in it. Okay, I got new slides. I'm sorry. They're not new, they're old, but I forgot the order. All right, let's go. Before I get into my slides, this is what my slides were trying to tell me. Don't you forget to tell them this is a fundraiser, all right? So it's free. Our Thursday night classes are free. Y'all, that's what I forgot to tell you. Ooh, I forgot to tell you. Okay, one more share before we get to the slides. Hold on. I know some of you are like, I came for the real estate. But I want to show you this. I just posted it today. I want to make sure you see this. Okay. Let's see if I can make that its own window so it's easier to share. Okay. I posted our 2024 course lineup for this year. Okay. Oh, I have to stop the slides first. Okay. Share screen. I know, StreamYard. You wish I had more screens. Uh-huh. Okay. So what you should be seeing here, if you are not in the Building Wealth Together Facebook group, which will soon be changing its name, if you are not in the Building Wealth Together Facebook group, this is our 2024 course lineup, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the lineup, okay? So let me go in here and close that big picture. Wait a second. Why does that say 2023? Tell me I didn't mess that up. Let's see it. Come back. Oh, I have a typo. Okay, we'll fix that. Okay, so what we have here is the course schedule. So this is the course schedule. Now, y'all know life happens and y'all know things change. And you also know, if you've been with me for any amount of time, we adapt these classes to the needs of the group. So if I'm doing a group that's mostly people wanting to speak or to coach, I might swap the coaching, the how to make your first $1,000 coaching or the how to make your first $1,000 speaking. I might move them up in the schedule or move them down. Okay. But this is our schedule. You really can't see that too well. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. That's not much help, but that's okay. You can go to facebook.com/groups/build wealth with JJ. And that URL will not change when we change the names. I'm keeping that bad boy. Okay. Because I've had it first. But these are the classes that we're going to have. We're going to cover the entire gamut of real estate investing. And we're going to also cover things like how to make your first $1,000 podcasting, how to make your first $1,000 as a coach, how to do tax sales, how to wholesale. We're going to do driving for dollars again. That was so much fun last year, doing driving for dollars last year. We're going around. For those of you who missed it or weren't with me yet, I basically got in my car and drove around. And the crazy thing about it is, I was driving, saw something for sale that wasn't even a part of my list for driving for dollars, the streets that I was doing. And I found a deal that we're still working on right now, commercial deal. So, I mean, this stuff works. Real life real estate investing, y'all. All right. I wanted to share that with you. I put the link to the group in the chat. So if you couldn't read that, then, or if you're on your phone and it's too hard to see, well, all you got to do is go out there to that group. Okay. So now let me pull back up my real estate slides. And while I'm doing that, I do want to remind everybody, this is a free class. All the Thursday night classes, they are free classes, but they are also fundraisers for my Global Youth Initiative. Okay. So these are fundraisers for Global Youth Initiative, which I do too. Okay, Global Youth Initiative of Erath County, which is where I live now in Texas, and Global Youth Initiative of the Arklatex, okay, Northwest Louisiana. So those are the two that I run. That's where I started with my John Maxwell journey, and now I'm here in Texas, so I still run both markets, okay? And so what we do is we take kids through different opportunities to learn about their personalities, their strength, confidence building. We talk about college and career prep. It's free money for college. And guess what? It's free for the kiddos. But the only way it's free for the kiddos is if people pay me. So I need you to send your donation, okay? Send your donation, all right? Okay, so let's see, what else do I want to talk about today? We're gonna skip building wealth together because we're no longer doing that kind of a group. So I was doing a RIA group. Let's go back to the slides and tell you a little bit about me. Yay! Everybody's favorite topic. What's everybody's favorite topic? If you want to do good business, you need to know that everybody's favorite topic to talk about is themselves. I'm not going to talk about myself too much. You can read the slide. You can see that I've been helping people get out of debt since 1998. Bought my first house in 99 and then decided to throw getting out of debt out the window because I was lured into the beautiful concept of other people's money, which is like the American dream until it turns into the American nightmare when the market crashes and then my husband leaves me and then I've got $845,000 of divorce debt. Okay. And so it's actually 14 years later, but the slide was made 12 years later. So now I'm financially secure and I empower women to have the financial freedom to live their fullest life and highest calling through financial and investment education. Okay, that's me. That's great, right? But maybe you want to know why I do this stuff. Well, let me show you why I do this stuff. Now, my oldest, he would be upset with me if he saw that I was still using this picture because this is my favorite picture of my two boys. Okay, but they're my big why. For a long time, the reason that I did what I did and what I do is because I never wanted to have my children sleeping on another moldy basement apartment because that was all I could afford. I don't ever want my children to have to walk around Walmart and Sam's Club and Costco and any place that does free samples and get all the free samples and then go back and make another circuit and change our sweater so hopefully they don't recognize us because mama doesn't have money to put food on the table. That was my big why for a very, very, very long time. I just didn't want my children to have to live that way. Now, if they live that way because that's their life, well, then that's life and that's their choice, right? That's what they choose, then that's what they choose. But not on my watch where they gotta have to live. That was going to equip them with the tools they needed to create the life of their dreams. Now my big why has really expanded. This is the block where I own some property in Baltimore, and one of the big things that I feel that I'm called to do is change communities. And one of the ways that I change communities is helping men and women, but especially hardworking professional women, learn how to dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy. It's time for us to stop working so hard for everybody else's dream and start working for our own dream. It's time for us to stop working so hard, putting money in the banker's pocket, the credit card issuer's pocket, the payday place pocket, the rent to own pocket. It's time for us to start putting money in our own pocket. That's what I'm here to do. All right. I'm here to help you do that. I'm here to equip you with the tools you need to succeed. Okay. One of those tools is real estate. Why do I love real estate so much? Well, there's a lot of different ways to profit from real estate, even if you don't buy the house. A lot of people don't want to be landlords. That's right. A lot of people who make millions in real estate don't landlord. They don't own the house. They don't deal with tenants and toilets. They make their money through other methods associated with real estate investing. And that's what we're going to talk about today. You can see a couple of examples of different ways you can profit from the property yourself, itself, whether you are owning it or controlling it or connecting someone who needs to sell it with someone who wants to buy it. You can make money in industries related to real estate investing. And if you are a trade or a broker who specializes with investors, there's always going to be a stream of people needing your services. There's also ancillary services like adding value to the property and adding value to the homeowner. There's other things you can do like vending machines or ATMs. There's all kinds of ways to make money from real estate. In fact, let me pull up this slide. It's a cool slide that I've written down. Now, these are the things we're going to talk about today. There's others and other variations, but these are the ones I'm going to talk about today. And the cool thing about this list, y'all, get this. These ones here, you can profit fairly easy without actually buying the property. Okay, so you could profit from land without buying the property, but it's kind of hard. You have to put a deal together. Flipping, you kind of got to buy it and flip it, or at least control it and flip it. Landlording, that's kind of, you got to buy it. And leapfrogging, we'll talk about that some other time. Okay, but these are the ones that you can profit from even without buying the house. And guess what? These ones that I've got in green, those are the ones that are easiest to profit when you start without money. Oh, so now if you are listening to me as part of the podcast, I want you to go out to YouTube and check out my 20 plus ways to profit with real estate, because you will be surprised at how many ways you can profit with real estate, even if you start with no money. Bird dogging, wholesaling, lease to own, deal making, foreclosure consulting, subject to, virtual assistant and other ancillary services. All right. So today we're going to start with a little bit of foundation as to why real estate is important for us. And the biggest thing that I want to communicate with this very wordy slide that I should have edited is that real estate is one of those things that works repeatedly. So there's a lot of things that work for this person and there's a lot of things that work for that person, but real estate is the only ethical and repeatable way that I have personally seen people build financial independence in as little as 3 years. So what is repeatable mean? Repeatable means that it works for everybody who follows the process. Okay. There's some things that you go into, some companies you buy into, they don't work for everybody who follows the process. And I'm not trying to be nasty, although people say I am sometimes. I'm a little petty sometimes. I don't think I'm petty. People say I'm mean sometimes. I don't think I'm a little mean. I don't think I'm a little mean. I share this world-class education with you every Thursday night. People pay thousands of dollars to hear this. I think I'm quite generous. But seriously, though, I know I'm direct and I can come off the wrong way. And guess what happens when you are a direct person who comes off the wrong way? Everything that works for everybody don't always work for you because your big mouth closes a lot of doors. And when you have, I forget what analysis it was. It said my personality is wired for justice. Like the Lord is teaching me how to tame my tongue a little bit, but I almost can't sit still or keep quiet when I see injustice. It's just not in me. I was designed to do something about things. And I'm a person who does something about things. I'm a person who gets things righted. And, one of my models is if I can't make it right, I'll at least make it better. That's who I am. That's who God created me to be. All right. So the rocks aren't going to cry out on my account. But the thing is, there are a lot of things where it's personality dependent. Oh, this product sells itself. No, the people aren't buying the product. They're buying you. And if you're not a salesperson, well, you need something that works for every person who works the process. Okay. The biggest thing with real estate, and here's why people lose a lot of money, is they don't follow the number one rule of real estate. The number one rule of real estate investing is you make your money when you buy. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. You make your money when you buy. And let me say it one more time for the people in the back of the church. You make your money when you buy. All right. If you can acquire a property at 70 to 80% of the cost of value, you are going to make money on that property, whether you keep it or you sell it to another investor. Now that sounds real simple, but right now it is not easy. It's really hard to find a lot of these juicy deals. See, if it was simple, everybody would be rich. It's kind of like calories in and calories out. If it was that simple, we'd all be trim and healthy. Okay. But life is not always that simple. But this is a simple thing. You follow the formula, you make the money. The difficult part, the reason it's not easy is because you got to find those properties. Now, if you are somebody today who is like, I really want to do real estate investing, but I don't have any money, I don't know where to start, I don't have any kind of credit, I don't have anything, and I don't have any access to any people, I don't have any rich uncles that are going to leave me $1 million or invest in my deal, then I encourage you to start with bird dogging and wholesaling. So what do I mean by bird dogging and wholesaling? Okay. Bird doggings are people who find properties. And to succeed at bird dogging, you got to be able to find properties. Now, I'm going to teach you that when we do our Driving for Dollars 101. And you're going to get some of that on these Thursday classes with the wholesaling 101 we're going to do over the next 2 months. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to do the Driving for Dollars 101 deep dive, you've got to be in the group coaching program. Okay. Because that's the only folks that are going to get access to that. Okay. Because we're going to be sharing insider information that's cost me over $100,000 of education to learn. So we don't just give that away free on the internet, right? I'm going to give you enough that you can go and you can make some action, and you can take some action and make some money. But the thing is the what is free, the how has a fee. Okay, so I'm giving you an overview, and I give you more in these classes than a lot of other people do, that you can go out there and figure it out. But if you want to avoid the pitfalls and you don't want to have to make all the mistakes that I made, you want to be able to fast track your success, then you don't want to try this and try this and try that. You want to just come to the table with somebody who's been there and done that and been doing it for the last 15, 20 years. All right. All right. So let me check the comments real quick. I saw some stuff floating. Okay. So let me put it back on bird dogs. Okay. Bird dogs, basically you're finding properties. Now, this could be as simple as noticing that a house is vacant and noticing that it's overgrown and getting that address, finding out who the owner is, and giving that to an investor who might buy it. Usually, if they're a reputable, ethical investor, they will compensate you a little bit for finding that property. Okay. Now, some states like Florida, you cannot do this legally. So you have to find creative ways to do it. Okay. You might get paid as a lead generator. You might get equity with a buyout clause after the fact, different ways to do it. And so I would encourage you to learn the local rules. And I'll explain how to do that a little bit later. Now, bird dogging is great, but I really feel like we got to strive for wholesaling. To me, wholesaling takes bird dogging to the next level. What a wholesaler does, a wholesaler is basically locking down the property with a contract. So as a bird dog will find the property, the wholesaler takes it to another level by actually talking with the person who can sell a home, the homeowner, and actually negotiating a price. And then they take that negotiated price with their wholesaler fee and they give that to an investor. The investor buys the house, and at the contracted price, you've got a contract. If it's a juicy deal, that seller is not backing out. That seller is not backing out. You got a contract. Whereas on a bird dog, you make a phone call. I think I said that wrong. Let me say that again. If you've got a contract and the other investor buys the property. They can't cut you out of the deal because you done put your contract together. You've put your fees into what they've signed, and at closing, the closing company, the title company, gonna cut you your check or however else you've made arrangements for it. With bird dogging, you could take a phone call and say, "Hey, here's this deal," and the investor could just conveniently forget that you had any role in him or her finding that deal. That's why I like wholesaling. But you know what? I don't like wholesaling. Why? Because it's a whole lot of extra work. However, the paydays are higher. And that's why, even though I don't like it, I still do it. Now, it's important to understand with wholesaling, you're not actually buying the house. You are taking a property, getting it under contract, and assigning or selling your interest in that contract to another investor who will then buy the house, fix it up, and do whatever they want to do with it and cut you your check. The next thing I want to talk about today is tax sales. And if you saw if you saw the schedule and you've been with me for a couple years, you'll know I usually do tax sales in May because the tax sales that I participate in usually happen in June. What I have discovered over the last 2 years is that most people who are trying to get their self-directed IRA set up and all these other pieces that help you with the tax sale, they need more lead time to be able to join in and follow along, look over my shoulder and do what I do. Okay. So we're actually going to do the tax sale 101 in April. And so I'm just letting you know that we're doing it in April to give you a little bit extra time. And if you're interested in tax sales, now is actually a great time to start researching your markets. So, what is a tax sale and why is it profitable? I like tax sales. They are absolutely a win win win. Here's the short version. Now, oh, I should give this disclaimer. Here's the disclaimer. For everything that I teach in these Thursday night classes, the Thursday night classes, they are the 101. I am putting the cookies on the bottom shelf. I am making the information accessible to all, and I am simplifying some of the processes so that we can have confidence and understand the ideas, okay? So there may be a different bit of a detail here and a different bit of a detail there. Your jurisdiction may do things this way. My jurisdiction may do things this way, okay? Your tax sales might execute ABC, mine might execute BAD. All right, bad to the bone. All right. Anyway, I just want you to understand that. Okay, so I am making this a very simplified overview. There are additional details when we go into the deep dives. We'll have additional details. Okay. So don't if you're experienced with this stuff, don't be like, wow, she's kind of glossing over some details. Yes, I am, because when you're starting out with something, you need confidence that you can do it. If I give you all the details right up front, you may not even get to the rest of the ways of real estate investing, and you might not even hear the one that you like. I want you to hear all of them. I want you to stay on long enough to hear all of them. And then when you hear all of them, then you can come to the public intro to that particular flavor of real estate investing. And if you really, really like it, you go into the deep dives. And in my deep dives, I give you the contracts that I use. I give you the mapping strategies. I give you the research strategies. I mean, like, we go deep into it. Okay. But right now, it's just a taste. This is just an appetizer. All right. All right. All right. So the reason tax sales works is because if somebody can't pay their property tax, the county still needs to pay the cops, the schools, the firefighters, and whatnot. All right. And so the way that each of these jurisdictions get money is typically through tax sales. Sometimes it's a county or parish tax sale. Sometimes it's a city tax sale. Man, when I was in Louisiana, they had both, man. I got hit hard with that when my first year. And after that, I learned the process. I said, oh, we're not doing that again. All right. But that's how they get their money. And so if somebody's not paying their tax, after a while, the city, the county, whoever's authorized to collect taxes where you live, they're like, okay, we're tired of this. We got bills to pay. We got teachers to keep on deck. If we don't pay these teachers, they're gonna stop teaching, and we're gonna all have to go back to the pandemic style teaching our own kids. And ain't nobody got time for that. So we're going to sell off this tax and give it to an investor, We're going to sell off the tax to an investor. And what the investor will do then is, if you don't pay them back, then they will have an avenue to own your house. Now, most people with a tax sale are actually going to pay the investor back, and they're going to get interest on their investment. So most people with tax sales don't end up with property, although some do. And I know people who do personally, but most people who do the tax sales, if they're doing the liens or the certificates, then they are ending up with a redemption. They're making interest. They're making 20, 30, 40% on their investment. You can't do 40 in Louisiana. I've been making 41%. I've been making 36 to 41% on my tax certificates. You can't make that in the market. This is a fast track to wealth, okay? And so this is an important thing for us to learn if you're starting with little money or you don't really want to buy the house, okay? Now, there are a couple properties that were just about to become mine, and then they redeemed it, and I was happy to take their 41% interest, but man, I sure would have liked the house. Now, but that's not always how it works. Now, there's 3 types of tax sales, and I made the comment that with tax liens and tax certificates, you usually don't end up with the house. But one of these types, you're actually buying the house. So let's talk a little bit about what those are on the next slide, okay? In a tax lien state, when you buy the tax from the county or city or state or however they do it, in a tax lien state, yeah, it wouldn't be state. I'm sorry. I don't even know why I said that. Let me start that over. In a tax lien state, you are getting a lien against the property. So what that means is you now have a loan. It's like as if they took a loan for you for the tax. That lien sits on the property. They can't sell that property or do anything on that property without paying you off. Okay. In some jurisdictions, though, if they go bankrupt or foreclose for a certain low amount, in some jurisdictions you could get wiped, and that means you don't even get it. But in most jurisdictions, you will get your money back with your interest. Okay. But what a lot of people who have the property that long is, if the homeowner doesn't redeem it, they either sell that tax lien to another investor who wants to buy the property, or they foreclose on their tax lien, force the sale of the home, and take it for their own. Okay? That's tax liens. On the other end of the spectrum is tax deeds. With tax deeds, you're actually buying the property. Okay, you may not pay for it right that moment, depending on the state that you're in. Some states you pay for it up front or whatever you've bid. Some states you pay a premium of your high bid and then you pay the rest of it later. It's all in the details, but the bottom line is you are buying the property from the jurisdiction. Okay, and the homeowner has a certain amount of time to redeem. If they redeem, you get your money back with interest. If they don't redeem, you now own a home. Congratulations. You can do with it what you want. All right. Now, there's this really murky thing in Louisiana. I guess Louisiana just has to be a little extra. Oh, for this slide, I should pull out my hide your crazy slide. Anybody from Louisiana, you have seen this before. It's a meme that says, in Louisiana, we don't hide our crazy. We put bells on it and parade it down the street. Louisiana is just a little bit different, y'all. In Louisiana, they have what's called tax certificates. So what you get in Louisiana is a certificate of part ownership of the house. Sometimes you get 100% ownership, but most of the time you get a percentage ownership unless you only do 100%. And so what you would do then is either quiet the title after the redemption period is over, or you would file for a partition. Now, the problem with all of these things, well, wait, no, we're not going to go into those details today. You can tell I love this stuff. I already started, so I won't leave you hanging. One of the problems, this is a little freebie. This is a freebie you want to know before you invest in these things. You're going to be responsible for any additional taxes and maintenance and all that stuff during the redemption period. I mean, you could try and make the homeowner do it, but if they're not paying their property taxes, chances are they're not mowing the lawn or paying their next property tax either. I had one guy that actually did. He paid his property tax for 3 years, and I was a part owner of his house in Louisiana. And the only reason he didn't know, and I kept trying to send him letters, hey, redeem this, redeem this. And finally, I just let it go. Finally, I let it go, and I shouldn't have. But he was disabled, visibly disabled. He had retired from, military or law enforcement or something like that. And after a hailstorm, he was so proud of the fact that he was slowly fixing that house up himself. And every time I would come to see about him, I just didn't have the heart to put him out of his house. Like for me, real estate is a transaction, but there's just some things that, it wasn't costing me anything for him to stay there. He was paying all his future taxes. He was fixing up the property. It wasn't costing me anything. And by the time his heirs decided they wanted that house, oh, let me tell you what, I got my check. I got my kindness back with interest. Now, I wouldn't do that for everybody, and I wouldn't recommend that you approach real estate with a big, soft heart. I suggest that you approach real estate like a business. But there are times where we make exceptions to the rule, and that was one of them that paid off very well for me. All right, now we're going to talk about new construction. New construction is not as juicy as it used to be. I think it's going to come back. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, and we are not doing a deep dive on this. If you are interested in a deep dive on new construction, then what I recommend you do is join our group coaching program, jjclink.com/group. Join our group coaching program and ask me about it in our group coaching sessions. Okay. Real quick plug for the group coaching program. If you are unable to attend, you send me your questions, and then you will get your answer recorded during the session. So then you'll get a recording of it. Now, if you're not in the class and you didn't send me a question, you're not getting classes of everybody else's questions. So, this is a use it or lose it kind of thing. Use it. All right. The only way you're going to succeed is if you use it. Okay. So, you want to make sure that if this is something that's interesting to you, that you join the program, because I'm not going to cover this in a public forum, because it's such a rapidly changing market right now. And so it takes effort to give you the most up-to-date research. But the overview, I'm going to give you the overview. The overview of new construction. And again, I'm simplifying this, putting the cookies on the bottom shelf so most people can understand the process. All right. New construction typically gets built in phases. So a developer gets a big piece of land. They want to go to the bank and they want to get money for construction loans and do whatever they want to have to do in order to build out this project. They build it in phases, and the builder needs to sell enough units in each of the phases to get more money from the bank to build with in that phase. So when they're just starting out, phase 0, usually the builder's going to give you the cheapest price on that property. They just need to get enough contracts in hand, right? So when they go to the bank, they can say, I got this person, I got this person, I got this person. They've all got these contracts, they've all signed, they're going to buy my properties. I've got their deposits right here. And the bank says, great, you've got enough people. I think we feel comfortable proceeding with this project. We're going to go ahead and fund you enough for the first phase. And then first phase begins construction. They clear out the ground. They'll put up a model home a lot of times. And then they begin to build out the homes. Well, now people see a home. See, a lot of people don't see the value when it's just a plot of uncleared land or just a plot of cleared land. But once people see those homes going up, they're like, ooh, something new. I've been wanting to get a new house. I'm tired of this old clunker. And I know that air conditioning is going to go soon. So I might as well just get out while the getting's good before summer hits, right? So they sign up once they see that happen. And then the builder goes back to the bank and says, here's we need more money for phase 2. Here's all the contracts we have from phase 1, and here's the deposits and everything that we have. You can see we're doing a good job. We're not going to take your loan and run off. Banker, please give us more money. And so then the banker gives them more money. And then phase 3. In some places have a phase 5, 6, 7. It just depends on how much land they have and how much they want to build it out. So that's the phase offer of it. What a lot of people used to do back in the day, and what some people do now, is They buy it at the ground level when it's discounted and then sell it because the property value goes up as more units are built. Okay. And so that's new construction method number one, which we call flipping for equity. Okay. So with flipping for equity, I know that before he starts building those model homes, that's the cheapest it's going to get. Before that builder, before he or she starts building those model homes, that's the cheapest it's going to get. Nobody else has bought in yet. I can get in on the ground floor. Over time, the price is going to go up 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. I've been in a market where from phase 0 to phase 7, the price went up over $100,000. Now that was over a 5 or 6 or 7 year period. Maybe I think one of them was like 10-year period, right? So it's not instantaneous, but I've almost, okay. I was about to hyperbole, y'all. I was about to say, and it's a true statement. Every house I have bought, new construction, has gone up in equity from the time I put the contract on, from the time we closed and moved in. But I don't want to make it sound like all my houses are new construction. Okay, y'all. I'm a very much investor special. That's just that's a small sample set. But every single time we close with 10,000 equity, 15,000 equity, 20,000 equity. Okay, so being military and moving a lot, I saw that for myself, and so that's an excellent way to get in. Some builders don't even require a very large deposit. You get $1,000 in, and you've got a contract, and then 6 months later, that house is built, and now it's worth 10,000 more. Guess what you can do? You can flip for equity. That's right. You sell that interest in that property to somebody else, closes on the property, so happy they have a brand new home that nobody's ever lived in. And guess what you have? 10,000 extra dollars in your pocket. I like that idea. That's what we call flipping for equity. Okay. Now, there's another method that I've seen people successfully use with real estate investing. And I'm going to tell you I'm so sorry. There is another method that I have seen people successfully use with new construction. And I'm going to be transparent with y'all. When I first saw one of my friends back in the day do this, I laughed at her. I thought she was going to lose her shirt, y'all. But you know what? She became financially independent in 12 years. And I'm not talking financially independent where she has enough to live on and everything's okay. I'm talking financially independent where she can travel the world whenever she wants. Okay, so I'm going to show you this second method, and that is to hold it for rental. Now, if you have been in any kind of real estate investment club, if you have been in any kind of one of my classes, you know that I want you to buy the property cheap. I am not a huge fan of this method, especially if it takes a loan. Now, if it doesn't take a loan, hey, you do you, boo, because if you can buy it cash, I ain't going to be mad at you for buying a brand new home. It's like a brand new car. Let me just do an aside. There's so many financial planners who got mad at me when I bought my RAV. And they were like, why'd you buy a brand new car? You're a financial coach. You should be teaching people to get a secondhand car. And I'm like, I do teach people to get a secondhand car. But if the difference between a 0-year-old RAV4 and a 3-year-old RAV4 is only $2,000, I'm saving up and I'm buying the brand new one. I'm putting my own smell in that, my own prints in that. Of course, 2 days later, my son throws up milk in it, and y'all know milk takes forever to get the smell out of the car, but that's okay. The honey bun and I and my little one, who's now my big one, we traveled all over the country in that car. We camped everywhere in that car. We had many fond memories of that car, and guess what, y'all? I saved up the money to buy that car. So you want to save up the money and do new construction? I'm not mad at you, but I'm just saying, if you got to take loans to do this strategy, it may not be the strategy for you. The way it works if you hold it for rental, the reason people like to do that is because, well, for the most part, you're not going to need a whole lot of maintenance. It does have a high purchase price, but it's better than a 100-year-old home where everything's always breaking and you can't find replacement parts, right? That's how some people feel. Now, if the quick appreciation gives you kind of a safety blanket. So I talked about how sometimes people will get in on the ground floor and they'll flip for equity. So they'll never actually buy the house. They have the contract on the ground floor. By the time the house is built, now they're on to the next phase or the next phase after that. And then the prices of the properties are higher, right? Well, even if you buy in at a later phase, chances are, because it's new, there's going to be a buzz in the area. If you picked a good builder and you picked a good area of town, then your price is going to appreciate because of other factors, location. Okay. So that can serve as a safety net for you to be able to sell it. Okay. Um, if you have a property that's brand new, that's very attractive to renters, and this is how my friend or my colleague, we're not really close anymore, but this is how my colleague, I'll say, this is how, oh goodness, y'all, I need to learn how to choose my words better. This last one, this is how my colleague became financially independent in less than 12 years. She used her new construction properties for corporate housing. She had a combination of new construction single family homes and new construction condos. And she equipped them with some furniture and rented them out for corporate housing. A lot of corporations near a big conglomerate base, joint base, and that's how she was able. She took the profit. So let me walk you through an example. If her payment on the property was like at the time, at the time, well, this was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Ooh, this was in 2002. Man, I'm kind of getting old. But anyway, oh, anyway. Anyway, sorry y'all, got distracted. I'm trying to remember when it was. Actually, I think it was like 99 because I went to Oklahoma in 2002. So yeah, it was in 99. So what she did, the homes were about 150 to 160 back then. Back then, interest rates were like they are now, 6, 7, 8, 9%. Okay. That's how the interest rates were back then when I bought my first house. And I think about the same time that she bought this one, her first one. And so the property was, maybe 150, 160. She had a payment then of maybe about $1,000 a month, but she rented it out for corporate housing at $3,000 or $4,000 a month. Took every single penny of that and put it into paying down the house early. So 11 years later, she had all these properties that were paid off. And I think she acquired like one every year or one every other year. It doesn't take a long time. I mean, just stop and do the math for a second. How many properties do you need paid off, pulling in $4,000 a month? That's $48,000 per property. How many of those do you need to be financially independent? For many of us, just one of those would change our life forever. So this stuff works. It really, really works. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about flipping. Now everybody knows about flipping, right? Everybody knows about flipping. We see it on late night TV. We know how to flip. We know the concept. But I'm going to tell you right now, at face value, flipping really is buying that discounted property, fixing it up, selling it for profit, and it is a very simple concept. But again, it's like the whole premise tonight. Things are simple. This is real estate investing is very simple. It's not easy. So beware of the "it's so easy" infomercial properties, the hotel room people. You know, make sure you watch some of these shows that show what really goes wrong. I don't know if Flipping Boston is still on. It was when I wrote these slides, and towards the end, they seem to get really way more unrealistic. But you want to watch shows that show the real problems that people run into. I think there's one like "Help, I Wrecked My House" and "First Time Flipper" and some of those things. Okay, we're not gonna talk about flipping in the coursework for this year. I don't think we're covering flipping. I think I'm getting everybody prepared for, some economic crisis that's being projected. Not crisis, I don't want to scare people, but they're still projecting some economic issues coming. And so my focus for everybody on 2024 is to understand how to find deals, how to create deals out of thin air, and how to help homeowners in distress create win-win solutions. A win for the homeowner, a win for the investor who ultimately buys it, or the family who ultimately buys it, and a win for you as the real estate investor. Okay. So those are the kinds of things, those are kind of along the lines that I'm looking for. How do you acquire a property and then be able to turn it around at a good price so that you can rent it out to somebody or rent to own it to somebody who, doesn't have an opportunity a traditional opportunity for the American dream. So there's so many things that we're going to talk about. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on flipping unless my students want it, but if my students want it, we'll do it. Okay. So flipping, you're basically renovating the house and you're selling it quick. And now the thing is, for me, is if you're going to do this, you got to consider the holding costs. You got to consider if you got to pay taxes. You got to consider the electricity it's going to cost. You got to consider the fact that Murphy shows up. Sometimes mold shows up. Sometimes lead issue shows up. I had an investor in the middle of one of my properties I was renovating, and she was like, "You're never going to pass lead inspection. You got to scrape all this 3-story townhome. You're going to have to scrape all this paint." And I was like, "What?" So I thank the Lord for more experienced investors that that poured into me. That's why I'm so willing to pour into others. So you wanna make sure that you do count those costs, but you also want to make sure that you have somebody that's more experienced that can be like, "Hey, you realize there was a fire here," or, "Hey, you realize these electricity, this breaker, this is old wiring, it's going to need to be replaced." You want to see all those kinds of things beforehand. So having that solid investor network is critical, both for helping you get through the flip, your first couple of flips, and then also for finding properties and selling properties too. Because there's some investors out there, they do not, they understand they can make more money if they bought the property at a discount, but buying a property at discount usually means you're fixing something up. They'd much rather just have the turnkey property. It's already painted, the cabinets have already been fixed, the fridge has already been replaced, and just put my renter in there. Okay, so that's really very important to understand all sides of that market. Okay, I'm going to give you let's go into foreclosures. All right. So foreclosures is how I got my start in foreclosure in real estate investing without my ex-husband. Okay. It was the first thing that I did without my ex-husband after the divorce. And it wasn't the biggest money maker, because I'll explain that coming up. But it was how I got started and started to get some confidence in being able to do this by myself. And if you're today on here and you're like, I'm doing everything by myself and I'm working so hard and I don't know that I'm ever going to be able to succeed. And I just want to know that somebody can be there to help me accomplish this. And I just want to make sure I'm not going to fall flat on my face. Well, I'm going to tell you, with real estate, no real estate investor mentor can ever tell you, "I guarantee you won't fall." But I can guarantee you won't make the same costly mistakes that I and many others before me have made. I can't guarantee you won't find mold in the wall, right? Because you never know until you start tearing walls down. But I can guarantee, if you follow my guidelines, you'll buy the property at a good enough cost to value ratio that if you do find mold in the walls, you'll be able to do something about it. All right. All right. So, um, foreclosure is very near and dear to my heart because it is how I got my start. While I was in Maryland, they created this new law that basically said it's the protection it was the protection of homeowners in foreclosure law. And so basically, if you called yourself a foreclosure consultant, you could no longer buy the house. And what was happening back then, y'all, there were a lot of investors who were saying, "Hey, stay in your home. I'll help you stay in your home. I'll help you prevent foreclosure, save your credit, save your house." And they would sign on, "Here, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you." Verbal, verbal. "I'm going to help you. You're going to get to stay in the house. Just sell it to me and I'll sell it back to you. Sell it to me and I'll rent it back to you." They sign on the dotted line and get kicked out of their house and get kicked to the curb. And so it was such a huge problem in Maryland that they said, "Okay, we're going to stop this predatory practice." And so the real estate group that I was in at the time, run by Sherwin Ragland, a bunch of investors in there got together and created the professional association, the Maryland Association of Professional Foreclosure Consultants. I was actually their first treasurer. And we all created this certification program, and you could come in and get certified how to help people who are in foreclosure, especially if they couldn't afford to get themselves back together, or if the bank wouldn't help them with a modification or anything, how to get them back, get the house sold to an investor. It was actually a wonderful win-win-win for everybody. Okay. And so for me, foreclosure consulting is a huge win for people who are ready to help others. You want to make money, but you want to make money that makes an impact. This is one of those ways that you can make money making a difference in the lives of somebody else. Now, the way that foreclosures work is that when the lender doesn't get paid, when the lender's not getting their money, well, they can say, you know what, you're not paying me. I'm going to take you to court and force you to either pay up or get out. Okay. And so when that happens, depending on the state you're in, I mean, one state I had a rental property in, you could be in there for almost 2 years before you got put out of that house. And I was like, okay, this isn't going to work for me. I'm not invested in this state anymore because the renters know that's the process, then they don't have a problem not paying me. And I was like, So back then I was using loans for real estate investing. So that's another reason I don't want to do that. Okay. But to get back to it, okay. The bottom line with the foreclosure is that if you are not paying your mortgage, the bank can call your loan or force you to pay up or get out. Okay. And they take you to court and they say, pay up or get out. And a lot of times what happens, the homeowner can't pay up because whatever situation got them in that position in the first place is still looming over their head. And so then the bank forces the sale of the house. They foreclose, they force the sale of the house. And if the bank at the foreclosure sale gets what they need from the people who are bidding at the foreclosure sale, then that person wins the house. If the bank doesn't get what they need, a lot of times they're going to buy the house at the foreclosure sale. So now the bank owns the house. So that's why we have 3 phases of foreclosure sales. Okay. Your first phase is your distressed sellers. Your distressed sellers are people who aren't paying their mortgage on time. They have something going on in their life, or something has come up, or the bank has changed and forgot to tell them where to send the new coupons. Oh my goodness, y'all, that happens. That really happens. And so whatever, they are not paying their mortgage. And they're in this window where the bank's trying to get them back on track. Hey, we need you to pay. We need you to pay. That's the pre-foreclosure sale. Those are distressed sellers. That's what the lingo is for somebody who isn't paying their mortgage and hasn't been foreclosed yet, is the distressed sellers. Okay? Distressed sellers. I have been in Texas too long. The next phase where you can profit in foreclosure is at the auction. And that's where y'all, cash is king. Now remember, cash is king, but Jesus is Lord. But that's where cash is king, because at the auction, you are going to buy the property, but you got to close on it that day, generally speaking. Okay. Now, I summarized the process by saying, if the bank doesn't get enough, so let's say the property is worth $125,000 and the bank has foreclosed, the sellers, or not the sellers, but the homeowners owe $120,000. There's only $5,000 of equity, okay? I, as an investor, I'm not going to a foreclosure sale to buy a house that's $125,000 in mortgage and value, and only have to pay 124, right? Unless I just want that property, like unless that property has special meaning, or it's in a special location, or it's some reason that it makes it more desirable. I'm not doing that deal, because think about this for a second. If somebody is in foreclosure and they have let it get to this bad, chances are they're not taking care of the house. They're not taking care of this and that. And they probably done run off with all your copper wiring and pipes and things, anything they can get their hand on. That property probably needs way more than $5,000 to bring it up to speed, bring it up to code, and get it back on the market. So I'm not going to pay that. If I go to that foreclosure sale, I might pay $70 for it, depending on how much repair I think it needs. Well, if the bank is like, I ain't taking 70, they owe me 120. The bank might say, they owe me 120. I can sell this thing in the market for 125 to a retail end buyer. Never mind the fact that the house is raggedy and inside and needs some work, right? Never mind that. We think we can do this. We're going to buy it back at the sale. So they buy it back at the sale, and that's called real estate owned. REO. If you're going into the MLS system, the multiple listing system that realtors use, it's called REO. You can buy that property from the lender. The lender really does not want to be a homeowner. The lender really does not want to be a landlord. The lender really does not want that property on their books. They just want their money. All right. They want to take that money so they can make more loans to better people next time. All right. So those are the three phases in which you can profit from foreclosures. Okay. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is short sales. Short sales. How do I want to say this? I want to say it in the shortest way possible because we're already at over an hour. All right. The short version of short sales. Short sales is getting the bank to accept less money than is owed on the property. Let me say that again. Short sales, in summary, is getting the bank to accept less for the property than what's owed. So if the house has a $120,000 loan, but it's really not worth $120,000, or if it's worth $120,000 fixed up, but it needs like $50,000 of work, right? You might be able to get the bank to take less for it. So for example, let's do some math in public. All right. I'm not always good at that, even though I did math for a living for a long time. All right. Let's say the property value is 120. Okay. I'm going to say the property value is 120. That's the value. If you're listening to me on the podcast, please go find Real Estate Investing 101 on my YouTube channel so you can see what I'm drawing out. But I'm going to do my best to explain it as we walk through it. The value of the property is 120. The loan on the property is also 120. Now, if a value of the property is 120 and the loan on the property is 120, even if that homeowner wanted to, they can't sell the house. Why can't they sell the house? Because unless they sell it by owner, the realtor is going to charge 6%. The realtor is going to charge 6%. So in order to pay off your loan, what you need to sell. Now, I know there's other brokerage houses that don't charge the full amount, okay? So what you need to sell, let's see, what's 6% of that? 5,400. You guys can check my math on that, okay? So what you need to sell is more than 120, okay? Or you say, well, JJ, what about for sale by owner? I'm just going to sell it myself and save the realtor fee. Okay, first of all, as someone who was a realtor for 10 years, a good realtor is worth their commission. So if I were you, I would just go through the realtor in the first place, okay? But if you want to do that, here's the sad part. If somebody is trying to do a for sale by owner, they know you're trying to save. They know you're trying to save the realtor commission. So the most they're going to pay for your for sale by owner is still not going to pay off your loan. So what are you as a homeowner going to do? Well, you got to convince the bank to take less. You got to convince the bank to take less on the property. You got to convince the bank to take less on the property so that you can still pay the realtor and then pay your closing costs. Wait, let me do that a different color. Do I have a different color? All right, I'll just make that blue. So you gotta convince the bank to accept less so you can pay your realtor fee and pay your closing costs and still pay their loan off. Okay. And so that's called a short sale. You have basically shorted the bank. They have accepted less. So in this case, it might be maybe 100K. It might be 105, depending on the math. Okay. And so what you do there now, what if it needs some maintenance? Like, what if they were in the house and things blew up on them, the market went crazy, they needed some maintenance. Well, then you got to come down even lower. Do I have another color? I got to find my colored markers. You got to come down even lower for maintenance. Okay, so we got realtor fee, closing costs, and maintenance. Okay, so that's how a short sale works. Okay, and you got to factor all of this into your short sale. It kills me when somebody comes to me and they're so excited they got the bank to accept 110 for the house that's worth 120 and is valued at and has a 120 loan, and I'm like, okay, you got the bank to do that. Did you work through a realtor? Oh yeah, they're the ones who were working. I found this property on the MLS, and I'm like, oh no, how much does it need to fix it up? Oh, I don't know, it looks fine from the outside. And I'm like, oh no, you didn't even see the inside? Well, because I did all my real estate investing online. And I did it from the comfort of my house, JJ. I don't need to go see it in person. You will after you get the keys to that house. Okay, so in essence, that's short sales. Why would a lender actually do this? Well, the lender knows it costs a certain amount of money to go to foreclosure. And also, as time goes on that they hold the property, they can accept less and less money for it. Now, I will go into that at a later date, but there's a strike line that every bank has. And every month that value is going down, 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 that if they offload the house, their insurance will make up the rest. See, when it starts off, when you first buy a property, traditionally speaking, I know there's this difference and that difference and this outlier and that outlier. But when you first buy a property, traditionally, the insurance is going to cover only up to 80% of the value of the house. So I guess I could, no, I don't have room on that paper. They're only going to give you up to 80% of the value of the house. That's why you have to buy private mortgage insurance if you don't pay a 20% down payment. It's because the bank is like, either way, I'm getting my money. If you don't pay me and I have to foreclose, I'm getting that insurance that's going to cover that 20% that my other insurance isn't going to kick in. And so every month, the amount that they have to recoup in order to enact their other insurance is bigger and bigger. I mean, it's smaller and smaller and smaller. The insurance will pay more and more and more. So that strike line is formed. And if you hit that sweet spot between what you want to offer and what the bank can now take, then boom, you got you a short sale deal. It can be a beautiful thing. It can also be a very tedious thing. And I'm not a big fan of it, because I'm not as much of a details person as you need to be with short sales. But I'm also a very good team person. So if you have somebody who's very detail oriented and you want to joint venture together, I won't use the word partner. We're not forming an LLC together. We're not going to go equals halvesies on something like that, because that the only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. But I am a big fan of joint ventures. And if there's somebody who wants to do one of those deals, and you want somebody to work with you, I will help work with you. All right. All right. The next thing we're going to talk about is landlording. And buying and holding real estate is one of the best ways in our country to maintain wealth. So a lot of times when people have a lot of wealth, they realize very quickly it's not just about earning money. It's not just about what you make. It's about what you keep. And there's only so many different things that you can do to hold on to wealth once you get past a certain amount of money. In fact, even the FDIC only insures $250,000 in your bank account. So over that, what are you going to do with your money? There's strategies if you want to have multiple bank accounts, and we're not going to talk about those strategies here. But one of the best strategies is put it into real estate. Real estate usually, not always, if you've heard my story, I know that very painfully true, but usually appreciates over time, and people are going to always need a place to live. Okay, so the way that landlording works, I know you probably know this, but there's probably one or two people that doesn't really understand. I just want to make sure we are all on the same page. Landlording is basically you have a property, whether it's a residential property that somebody lives in or a commercial property that somebody has a business in, and you rent it out to somebody else. Now, look, if you're going to be a landlord, especially residential, you've got to have a thick skin because tenants and toilets are no joke. And you've got to make sure, if you're in order for you to have success, you've got to have solid policies and follow them every single time. So if that renter doesn't pay that next day, you better put that pay or quit. I think I better say that again. Okay. If your renter doesn't pay that first day, you better put that pay or quit notice out electronically on their door or however you do it, and let them know they got 5 days or whatever your county or state says they get before you gonna file for eviction. Because you can't play around with stuff like that. And you say, "Oh, you're so harsh." You know what? I'm gonna tell you what. I'm gonna tell you why I'm so harsh. Because a lot of times people feel like they don't have money, but they have money for the things that are important. And when they put that notice on my door and said, if I don't pay, they gonna put me in court and kick me out of my house, you better believe I found a way to get that money together. And so if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. And I'm telling you today, you have to make sure that you have the kind of personality or hire the kind of personality that's going to hold that line. Okay. It's not about being mean to people. It's not about not helping people. In fact, you are much more helping somebody who can't afford to live in your property by helping them move out into a property that's better suited for them. It's actually more kind than letting them have a false hope that one day they'll get caught up. I don't want anybody who rents from me to have a eviction on their record. I want them to be able to move on in peace and move on happily and find just the right place and have the time to find the right place, not have to find a place tomorrow. Because as somebody who came home from a military trip to find my house sold and I didn't have no place to live, I know what it's like to try to find a house when you don't have a place to live. Guess what landlords think that person is? Evicted. And guess how hard it is to find a place to live when you don't already have one? Almost impossible. I've been there. And so I don't ever want anybody to be there. So if somebody can't afford to live with one of my properties, then it is time for them to move on. And how do I know they can't afford to live in one of my properties? They don't pay their rent. All right. I'll tell you what, let me wait. Let me tell you what gave me my thick skin because I've always been a big soft heart about stuff like that. I always want to help people. I always remember how people helped me. But I'm going to tell you, I was interviewing this one prospective tenant and they were really good on paper. They had a few little history issues, but so did I. I mean, between $800,000 in debt and not being able to pay my bills at that time of my life, I could barely find a place to rent because my credit was a hot mess, right? And so and so I was willing to overlook the credit. I just needed to know that I needed to see your bank statements and I needed to see your payment history and know that you paid your rent on time every time. And I get the bank statements and I get the credit history and I'm like, it doesn't look like you pay your rent on time every time. And the lady was like, well, I had to help my mom in the hospital this month. And then this couple of months later, my sister went into the hospital and I had to take care of her. And I thought, well, what you're telling me is if your mom goes back in the hospital, I'm not getting my money. And she was like, well, you're a minister. You should want to help the poor. And I said, well, if you don't pay me my money, this property has a mortgage on it. And if I can't pay the bank, what you've done is you've stolen. You're stealing from the bank when you don't pay your rent. So I can't have anybody in this house that isn't going to pay their rent. But she said, you're a minister. You should want to help. You should want to help the poor. And I heard that many times. I heard that so many times, y'all. I heard that so many times that two things came of it. One, I've already made up in my mind that anybody who says something like that to me is, I will say, Jesus paid it all, but he did not pay your rent. And the next thing about it did for me is I realized I was going to have to either grow a thick skin, or I was going to have to be the property manager instead of the owner, or both. And I found when I transitioned in my mind to property manager instead of minister, nice gal who's an owner, what it did was it helped me to be more businesslike with my dealings. And I liked it so much that now I do manage properties. I am a property manager. I can manage your property for you. And I don't have any problem taking your tenants to court because I know what it did for me. It helped get me right when somebody said they won't take me to court because I wasn't paying my rent. They didn't care how much behind I was. Now, somebody might work with you if you've been a long-standing tenant, but they didn't. They were like, it's up or out. If you can't afford to live here, we'll help you find a cheaper place to live. And I'm not mad at them. It turned my life around. Okay. So if you want to help people and help your financial future, it is time for you to know those principles. All right. One cool thing you can do with landlording is you can landlord in a niche. One thing that I do in my properties is I actually do allow pets. A lot of people don't allow pets. But when I bought my first, not my first house, when I bought the first house that I still have, oh my goodness, let me just start over. I rent to pets because when I bought the oldest property I still have that has a renter in it, it already had pet damage. And so what I've done with every subsequent tenant has been like, well, there's pet damage. You have a pet. You can either accept the pet damage and I will waive your pet deposit and your pet fee, or I can restore it to how it was, but then you will pay your pet deposit and your pet fee. Well, guess what many pet owners decide? They would much rather have Poopy Doo in there without the extra fee and without the extra deposit. And if somebody else already has a little bit of damage, it's okay. Now, we do not mark, that's a bad, that no pun intended. We do baseline the property. So when somebody's kitty peed all over the closet floor and was supposed, this was back before I ever had a cat, and they're like, oh, we'll just keep the cat in the garage. Note to new landlords, nobody can keep the cat in the garage. Nobody can keep the cat anywhere. There is going to be a time that cat gets out, and that is the one time that it gets out, and it is going to tear up your property. All right? So either let them in or let them out, but don't let them in thinking they're going to be contained in one little room because cats do not like that. Okay. Anyway, so that cat peed all over the closet floor and stained the closet floor. Well, I was so glad it was just the closet. But the thing is, we had already baselined the house with video and pictures. So it's like, okay, here's the damage. Here's your fees coming out of your regular security deposit. All right. So you want to be aware of things like that. But overall, I have found that people are appreciative to be able to have a place they can rent with their pet. Another niche that really works well is colleges, assisted living, and different people groups. There are some rental places owned by faith-based rental groups. I'm still learning the rules of Texas, but the last thing that I read is that faith-based groups that own apartments and things like that are exempt from certain rules. Okay, that's not true everywhere, but it might be true in your jurisdiction. Perhaps you are. Now, there's certain things that you can't do. If you have more than 4 properties in most jurisdictions, you can't say, I'm going to have a property for teenage blonde girls only, or college blonde girls only. Like you can't do that kind of, EEO, that's that equal opportunity applies. You can't do that. Or I'm just going to have all of one demographic or all of another demographic. Okay. You have to make sure you know the rules, but there are a lot of niches that you can appeal to without violating other people's rights and without violating the rules. Okay. One thing I do want to say about landlording, please avoid the it will appreciate one day trap. Okay. Remember, you make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy. Yes, the property will appreciate one day, but you don't know that. I have one property left with the loan. And some of you who've been watching me for a long time, you will remember that I was saying that I was debt free. And then I changed to saying that I was zero net worth. Well, why did that change happen? I was selling the house to the tenants and it fell through. And I was selling the house to the tenants and it fell through. And I was selling the house to the tenants and it fell through. So in all of my speaking engagements, they were all things that were going to be filmed now, but broadcast like 6 months later. And I just knew that by time that broadcast, I was going to be debt free. Well, I wasn't debt free because they didn't buy the house. But thankfully, uh, thankfully, my net worth is now positive. I am not a negative $845,000 net worth. But the thing is we have to understand that it will appreciate, sure, but that property we paid 405,000 for. At the market crash, it was only worth 180. That's a $225,000 upside down. And you know what that property is worth today? About 340. It still hasn't returned to its 2005 value. So keep that in mind when people talk about the property will appreciate one day. If you buy smart, you don't need the property to appreciate to make your money. Okay? The other thing we want to look at with landlording is we want to make sure that we are balancing how much effort it takes with profit. Generally speaking, the more of the work that you do yourself, or you've got competent friends, the more profit you will make. The more profit you will make. If you don't know anybody or have good relationships who work with investors in the trades, and you're paying phone book retail prices for everything, it's going to nickel and dime your profit. And a lot of times people think, oh, well, I'm just going to have a property manager take care of everything, and I'm just going to be a passive investor. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Passive is still work. Passive real estate investing, having a property manager, is still work. Now, I praise God for the property manager that I have on one of the properties that we have it on. She has been with us for a long time now, 8 years now, and she has done an excellent job of managing that property for us. However, I've had other property managers that took my money. I had one property manager, y'all, who colluded with the tenant because the tenant gave his sister a job. The tenant gave his sister a job. And so even though they stopped paying rent, and even though he went to court to evict and was awarded the right to, he was awarded a judgment, he never collected on it because they gave his sister a job. And then I'm in the desert, right? I'm in the desert serving our country, and I'm trying to get this thing straightened out, and I'm trying to get my money because this was that big property that still had the mortgage, and I'm trying to get that thing paid off, and I'm trying to get that mortgage paid, and I'm in the desert and I can't show up. Y'all, when I got back to the United States, we had a little bit of lead time. I'm going to tell you what I do, because a lot of times when you come back from the desert, you fly into Baltimore. Well, this property was in Maryland. I'm gonna tell you what I did. Y'all, I got me a rental car and I camped out in front of the guy's house. How'd you find out where the guy lives? Well, that's proprietary. I'm not going to tell you that in an open forum, but I found out where he lives, and I sat in front of his house for 6 hours. And I knew people were home because I seen them moving around. But when I first parked there, I said, "Oh, they're home. I'm going to ring on that doorbell, and I'm going to sit out here, and they're not going anywhere. They are not going anywhere." So I sat out there, and I would ring on the doorbell every so often. And I sat out there, and people would peek out in the window, and I'm like, they know I'm here. When I got back to my duty assignment, that key was in my mailbox. But I didn't have to go through all that if I'd have vetted the property manager a little better. Okay. So passive isn't always passive. And even when it is passive, you still have to set expectations and manage your business. Oh, wait, go back. Okay. I do want to give a plug for my absolute favorite landlord resource, and that is MrLandlord.com. MrLandlord.com, Jeffrey Taylor. I still have the picture I took of him when I bought his course, and my oldest son, I think, was 8, and we had driven 3 hours in DC traffic, y'all, to get to the Maria Real Estate Group. So it was the Mid-Atlantic Real Estate Investors Association, and he was the speaker that day up in Baltimore. and we were able to buy his course, and he took pictures with me. And that is the picture. If you go to my Building Wealth Together group on Meetup, that's the same picture of that night. He poured so much into us, and his resources were phenomenal. And all these years, I have been using his resources as well as his very active forum to ask questions and learn more and get better at being a real estate. MrLandlord.com. I also like biggerpockets.com, but even as I'm putting that up here, I realized that, oops, I forgot to post on it that we were having this class tonight. Oopsie. So I haven't posted on it in a while, I think. So I'll have to get back on the ball on that. Okay. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Leapfrogging. Leapfrogging is something that I'm almost embarrassed to share with you, but I went through the work for this, so it's mine. I went through the work to get this all legal and everything, so it's mine. So back when I thought real estate debt was okay, even though I taught a debt-free lifestyle, I coined the phrase leapfrogging. And basically what you do is you buy a property for your residence. It's a huge fixer-upper, but not so bad that you can't live there. And while you live there for at least 2 years, you're fixing it up, you're fixing it up, you're fixing it up. Okay. Then after 2 years or so, you go and buy another house to live in. And then what you're doing while you're living there, you've bought a fixer up, or you've got a good discount. You're fixing it up. You're fixing it up. You're fixing it up. Then you rented the other house. And if you bought it effectively enough, the rent, you're doing extra payments on the house to pay down that loan. And then you just kind of leapfrog your way to financial independence. Now, I still like leapfrogging, but there's a reason you can't find my original book on Amazon. Why? Because I no longer advocate taking loans for the property. If you're going to try this method personally, just to be able to sleep safe at night when you're not worried about, is the tenant going to pay their rent, or is this or that going to happen? I would recommend that you buy these properties in cash, or you leapfrog properties that you have done subject to, which we'll cover later. Subject to means you're taking over somebody else's loan. So it's still debt, but it's not your debt. It's still debt, but you haven't taken on any new debt. It's still debt, but you are helping eradicate debt from the face of the earth by taking over the loan of somebody else who can't pay it. Okay? We'll get to that in just a second. But that's what leapfrogging basically is. All right. The next topic we're going to talk about is creative financing. And creative financing is fun for me because basically it's anything other than traditional financing. So traditional financing is go to the bank, get a loan. Okay? Let me say that again. Traditional financing is go to the bank, get a loan. Creative financing is anything else. Now, I'm not necessarily talking about financing loan style strategies, but there are a lot of other ways to buy a property. You could lease option a property. You could then pay an option while you're, for the right to buy the property at a certain space later. I'm not going to go into huge detail because I'm going to cover them on the next couple of these. This first line, that's lease option, rent to own, land contract, and subject to. We're going to cover more details later. But basically, lease option, rent to own, owner financing, it's all a form of owner financing, or of you buying the house later, or you buying the house on some terms. Okay. Subject to, I just mentioned, we're going to take over somebody else's loan. Why do these strategies work? Well, the reason they work is because some sellers care more about price and some sellers care more about terms. If you can get a good price, then you might be willing to give them the terms they need, and vice versa. So sometimes I have bought real estate at full price because the person selling it was willing to give me good terms. Okay? So you might do that. You might concede some terms to get a better price. It's all an ebb and flow, and it's all about what you can negotiate. Oh, let me emphasize that point before we go off the slide. There's a line here that says work with a title company or real estate attorney to stay out of trouble. This is really big, especially if you are new to real estate investing, because you don't know what you don't know. and you might get into a property and you think it's a great deal, and you're just going to be able to do this and do that. You're going to be able to just take over the loan and it's going to be fantastic. Well, what you don't know is not only are you taking over the loan, but when you buy that property, you're buying this, you're getting stuck with this lien and that lien and that lien, and you're getting stuck with this clause and that easement and blah, 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 blah. And the next thing you know, your deal is not a deal anymore. So you want to work with some professionals to help cover your behind. Now I'm going to go over those first four a little bit more detail, but not a huge amount of detail because we have a whole 101 class on creative financing. Lease option, rent to own are very similar. Rent to own, we're all pretty much familiar with. So I'm just going to cover the difference between lease option and rent to own. With lease option, you are renting the property. You are leasing the property, okay? But you are paying the owner a fee for the right to buy the property later, okay? So you are paying a fee for the right to buy the property later. Where's my red pen? I'm going to show you this. Oh, I put it back. Oh, look at that. I actually put it back where it goes. Okay, so here's how this works. Short version. The house is worth $100K today. Drawing in public. You think it's probably going to be worth $120K later. Okay? But you've got a gal who's trying to sell the house at $100K. Can't get the house sold, really needs to get it sold. So you approach and say, hey, I'd like to rent your property. I'd like to lease to own your property. Well, I don't want to do rent to own, but tell you what, why don't we make an agreement that you rent it for a year and you pay something more for it later? And so you say, okay, I will pay you $1,000 option fee for the right to buy your house at $110,000 later, 1 year. Okay, so you can do that. And one of my new acquaintances here in Stephenville, this is how she bought her very first home. Problem is with most of these, people don't pay and they lose out on their stuff. Okay. But in some states you can't even do a year. Like Texas, you can only do 6 years. If somebody 6 months, if somebody is lease option, you got to put them on the deed after 6 months, or you need to do a 6-month term. Okay. But say you made this deal with them. Okay. What does the homeowner get? He or she gets $1,000 in their pocket for nothing but the right to sell you the house later. They're trying to get $100K. They may not even be thinking a year from now it'll be worth $120. Okay. That might be a little exaggeration. Maybe I should have made that 3 years. Let me make that 3 years. Let's be realistic, shall we? It's not going up $20,000 in 1 year. So I'm going to do that. Okay. And so what most investors who buy like this do is they then turn around and they put somebody else in here. Okay. They put somebody else in and they say, hey, rent my property. Oh, I forgot to give you the rent. I'm going to rent this house. I'm going to rent this house for $700 a month. Okay. So I have paid the homeowner $1,000 for the right to buy it a year from now at 110, and I'm paying $700 a month. Okay. Then I go find somebody who wants the American dream and hasn't been able to qualify for a home, or has a situation like mine with the divorce and their credit was all messed up. And so they couldn't qualify for a home, or whatever situation, they couldn't qualify for a home. And I say, hey, potential homeowner, how about you buy this house for me? And they're like, I can't buy it. I can't buy it. I can't buy it. Okay. You can't buy it at 110. All right. Tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to lease it to you for 3 years at $1,200 a month. I'm taking longer on this than I meant to, but you know what? It's good. So how much are you already making? Out the gate, you're making $500 a month and you're not even doing anything. You know why you're not doing anything? Because this is their house. Yeah, you're renting it for now, but it's rent to own. It's going to be their house. So you're going to tell them to do all their own maintenance and things like that. And in 3 years, you're going to pay me $120,000 for the house. All right. So for 3 years, you have made, um, oh, wait. I didn't even get this. And because I'm so generous, I am going to give you this option for the low price of $2,000. Why $2,000? Because as an investor, I always need to make my money at the buy. So if everything about this deal falls apart, I have at least made my $1,000 spread between what they paid as an option and what I paid as an option. Now, 100, you adjust the numbers to not be fleecing people, to be fair and equitable and honest. Whatever time it takes you, you want to be compensated for the time. People think, oh, well, you shouldn't have to make money like that. Well, I'm sorry, it takes time to turn a property around. It takes me going to the hardware store. I got to coordinate the vendors. I got to do some of the work myself. I got to advertise the property. Like, I should get compensated for the time I put in there. It's not about being greedy, it's about being fair, and fair is just compensation for a just day's work. All right. So now you've rented it out for 3 years at $1,200 a month. So you're making $500 a month, which then turns into, what is that, $6,000 a year. You're not doing maintenance because the future homeowner is doing the maintenance. And then you also made $1,000 off the spread. All right. So that's up to 7,000. Then you sell the property. If they close on it, you sell the property for 120,000. Now you've pocketed another 10,000 because you sold it for 120 and you got to pay this guy or this gal 110. See how that works? So your profit on this deal is 100 is your I'm sorry. Your profit on this deal is $17,000. And you don't have to fix a whole lot. You don't have to do a whole lot. And somebody else gets an opportunity they wouldn't have had to now have their own home. Woo, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. So that is lease option. Come back for the full version. All right. Land contract. Land contract is basically owner financing. So you're buying the house, but instead of paying the bank, you're paying the owner. This is a great way to buy investments or your property if you are okay with loans. I'm not really big on a whole lot of loans, but if you've got a really, really good deal and a seller who's really, really willing to work with you, this can be very effective for you. You can also wrap this strategy around an existing mortgage. So if you get a subject to deal, which we're going to talk about on the next slide, if you get a subject to deal, you have taken over somebody else's loan, you can put another person in that property, owner finance, and wrap their mortgage around the mortgage you're already paying. Now, I don't want you to do this alone. I want you to go and have a professional to help you close that deal. Preferably a professional who's familiar with these kinds of creative strategies. All title companies, all mortgage officers, all people involved in real estate are not familiar with these strategies. So make sure you find someone who is and then treat them real good. Real well. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about real briefly is subject to. This is where the investor buys the property subject to the existing loan. You are taking over the existing loan. How does this work? Well, the last one that we were working on, the couple had gotten older. They had a lot of health issues. They moved an hour away and they just couldn't maintain the property anymore. And the property was out in the middle of, not quite nowhere, but almost nowhere. And so the kids did not want to be bothered with the property. They didn't want it and they didn't want to buy it from their parents and they didn't want to take over the payments for their parents. And the parents were like, we just my husband doesn't have so many years left, he doesn't have so many months left. We just want to live out our time in peace and not have the headache of this property. It's falling apart. There's holes in the roof. There's holes in the floor. We just want somebody to take it off our hands. And the saddest part about it was they had been paying on that property for about 20 years, I think. They only had 4 more years left on it. They owed like 30. They originally paid 140 for it. They only owed 30 left and they were practically giving it away. Okay. And so that's what subject to is. You are basically taking over someone's loan. And really it's another one of these strategies that you can use to really help change somebody's life. Now that person doesn't have to have all that stress, and somebody who goes through this, they can start their life over, and that bad loan can be behind them, and this unaffordable loan can be behind them. And so even though I'm not a big fan of debt, I'm a very big fan of subject to, because you're really helping somebody change their life. And every time you or your tenant effectively makes that payment on time, you're helping rebuild their credit. And I like that. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about commercial. Commercial is anything not residential. And one of the things I want to warn you about commercial is it's great if you've got commercial to that there's no residential protections. But if you're trying to buy commercial, let the buyer beware. With commercial, you can't just go to the board of realtors and complain because somebody gave you a bad deal. It's whatever happens, happens. Okay. So why do people do commercial? Well, it's a higher income potential. Use a lot more incentive for the tenants to protect the property because now this is their business or their especially with retail and office, this is their baby, right? You have better business hours because um apartments, some people want to have after hours help, but for the most part you're helping your tenants during business hours. You're acting as the property manager and you're tending to them during business hours. And for commercial, you can pass more costs to tenants. So like if I have a strip mall, I have a parking lot, I have taxes I have to pay on that, the lights, the light poles, like they have to be maintained. And you haven't lived until a nest of ants has crawled into one of your lights, right? And then you had to get that fixed. um but the but there's all those different things. Well, you can charge each of your tenants for their fair share of the maintenance of the outside. Or maybe you have an apartment complex and so your rent covers that, but maybe you have a mall or an indoor office building. Your tenants can pay part of the cost to maintain the floors and the carpets and everything in the hallway that everybody uses, right? You can also pass on in commercial, you can also pass on portions of your property tax. And so we're going to go into way more detail on this when we do commercial 101, because there's a lot to explain and unpack. But there's, like what's the difference between regular leasing and triple net and all those kinds of cool terms. You're going to want to know those terms. So you're going to want to be in our commercial real estate investing 101. Okay. So it is a very lucrative thing. But like I said earlier, you got to let the buyer beware. It's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And when they do go wrong, you can't just go get my cousin Vinny to come patch it up. All right. You got to go and actually have it patched up according to code. And whatever repairs are done, got to be according to code. And so, like when I was in the mall, I thought we were just going to slap up some frame and slap up some drywall and make another room for the training center. No, I got to use certain kind of drywall that meets certain fire resistance and tolerances. There's a whole lot of different things that you have to do with commercial that you wait, I said that wrong. There's a whole lot of things you can do with residential that you can't get away with in commercial. A lot of cost saving things you can do in residential and still offer a quality product to your tenants you cannot do with commercial. So you have to be careful about those kinds of things. Okay. Now, my favorite kind of commercial property is the property I can use. So I'm looking for a training center. Any of y'all got a commercial property that's less than $1 million and it's got a couple of units that I can use? Let me know. Let me know. I'm looking anywhere along I-20 or in Stephenville, Texas. All right. Let me just do a quick side on apartments. A lot of times people think it's impossible for them to invest in real estate apartments, but actually you can find apartments by driving for dollars, just like you can find homes. Isn't that so cool? There are a lot of people who own small apartments who, they're tired of maintaining it. They've had them for almost 20 years. Maybe they need to do a 1031 exchange. Like, there are so many other things that you can do, so many other ways that you can find real estate, even commercial real estate. And we're going to cover that in our Driving for Dollars deep dive that I think is either the end of March or the end of April. I'll have to go back and look at the calendar and see. And it's going to be good, y'all. It's going to be so good. If you can get down here to Stephenville, Texas, and be live in the car with me, that would be the best. But the next best thing is to be able to participate live. I literally put the camera up on my phone as we're driving, and you hear us talking about the deals and things like that. And if you can't be there and you register for it, then you'll be able to get the recording. Now, I don't have the link up yet, so keep your credit cards in your debit cards in your pocket. We're not selling anything today, but I just want to let you know what's coming down the pike. All right, the next one I'm going to talk about is land. We are almost done for tonight. The next one I'm going to talk about is land. A lot of people want to buy land. Why? Because they're not making more of it, and so land can be very, very, very lucrative. One of the issues that I have with land, though, is that it's not a fast game. Okay, so with land, it's hard to sell because it's illiquid. It's just really, really hard to sell because in order to sell it, somebody has to have a thing they're going to do with it, right? And with land, a lot of times people buy land thinking, oh, well, they're not making more of it and it's only going to appreciate. So they end up going into negative cash flow to buy land. Now, if you are buying, no, I'm not even going to say that. I'm not even going to say that. I don't want you to go into negative cash flow to buy land. All right. And I want you to understand that unlike a property on your taxes, land doesn't come with depreciation. For those of you who don't know, depreciation is one of them IRS kinds of terms. And, I'm sure my accountant, the wealth building CPA, Abarakoya, out of Sunnyside, Maryland, she could do a more excellent job of explaining to you how all this depreciation works. I very much appreciate how she has taken care of my business all these years. But one thing I can tell you is the structure on the land that you're renting out to a tenant, it is expected to degrade over time. Things fall apart. Things, have issues. And so over time, the IRS gives you credit. Every year that it's rented, they give you a little credit, a little credit, a little credit. Well, over time, now that property has used up all of its IRS credit and it's down to zero. And so what happens then is people usually do what they call a 1031 exchange. They try to sell that and buy another like kind property so that they don't have to pay extra tax when it's time to sell. But land doesn't depreciate. It's the thing on top of the land that depreciates. So some people have come to me, they've been so excited about buying this big old plot of acreage, and because they have rent homes that have depreciation, they think they're going to get all this money back from the IRS because of this land, and that doesn't happen. So make sure you understand the tax implications of what you're buying. Make sure you understand what's coming down the pike. Make sure you understand what when I say what's coming down the pike, like what kinds of changes and urban planning has been done. I'm giving you a little more detail on land because I'm not going to cover it in a deep dive this year, maybe next year, but I'm not going to cover it in a deep dive this year. I might cover it in a group coaching call, but I'm not going to cover it in public. So I'm giving you a little bit more than I normally do on land. One year, me and my ex-husband, we were going to buy this piece of land that had a billboard on it. It was right off the turn from where we went off of coming home from the Pentagon, and we lived, well, it's all built up now, but we lived in a place where it was fairly a lot of trees and everything. It was really nice to come home to. And we were so excited about this. The people who bought it 10 years before us, they had paid like $150,000, and then they put the pole up for Comcast to do ads, and so they had that big billboard. And they were going to sell it to us for $1 million. And we're like, $1 million with the ad revenue. I mean, the ad revenue alone was like $90,000 or so. No. The ad revenue, Yeah, the ad revenue was like, it was like just below 100,000 a month. So, math in public is nobody's thing. But if you're making $100,000 a month and you're going to buy something for $1 million, well, you're kind of, barring taxes and other things, you're going to get your money back in about a year. Sound like a win-win to us. Well, we went to, because our real estate mentor told us, go find out what the urban plan is for that road. We found out that the plan for that road, not very long from then, was to cap off the road, build an overpass, and now no one was going to see that billboard. And so we were looking at buying the billboard. We were looking at buying the little property next to it, because we were looking for something for our church to buy. So we were looking at buying both of those things together. And I've driven back. It's been what? It's been 12, 14 years now. They sure enough, they capped off that road and they built an overpass, and that billboard is still there, not being used. And that little house, that not house, but that little store that we almost bought, it's gone. Why is it gone? Because they capped off the road and they built an overpass. And you know what the sad part about it is? All the people in that little edge, they knew that the road was going to be capped off and they were going to build an overpass. That's why they were all trying to dump their property. We avoided making a huge mistake, just having big old dollar signs in our eyes. Woo, $100,000 a month. Yes. We would have made one of the biggest mistakes of our life. And so it's very, very important with land that you do your research. Understand if you're getting the mineral rights, or if someone else is retaining the mineral rights. What easements are there on that land? Make sure you're able to actually control your land. In some states, it can be as little as 10 years up to 20 years. If you let somebody else use your land for that long and you don't stop them, they can petition to make it their land. Yes, they can. Ask a whole lot of families that have lost their slave lands because they weren't paying attention. Okay, that's a whole nother story. All right, and moving on. Let's go ahead and talk about ways to profit from the land, okay? So, so there's a lot of cool ways you can profit from land. Of course, developing is a great one, right? Like subdivide, selling it to a developer, working with a developer, joint venturing with a developer, or some other way of facilitating that. That's a great thing. Those are great ways to profit, especially if you get to retain some equity, like by partnering with the developer. Long-term holding, waiting for the value to go up, that's not my favorite way, because it takes forever unless you got a super amazing deal, right? And there are some deals to be had, especially when someone passes away. Now, this is going to sound mean. I know this is going to sound mean, and I don't want to sound mean, but I know this is going to come out mean. I'm actually saying it with all the love in my heart that I can give for any of us who haven't passed away yet. And if you've passed away, you're probably not listening to me anymore, right? But for all of us who haven't passed away, we need to understand that the number one thing that heirs want is they want money. Most heirs don't care about the property that we worked so hard to attain. Most heirs don't care that much about the ministry that we've built or the business that we've built. They just want, when we pass away and we are no longer part of this earth, they want the money, honey. That's all they want. And so we have to understand that when it comes to things like land, okay, we can't imagine that we're going to just acquire all this stuff and not have a plan of something to do with it. Okay. And because heirs generally want money, a lot of times they are willing to take far less than what's actually owed. I mean, not owed. I'm sorry. Let me say it again. A lot of times, because heirs just want money and they don't really care about the sacrifice that was made to acquire the land. A lot of times, if it means they can get paid fast, they'll take less than what that property is valued. So in those kinds of cases, you've made your money at the buy. And then in those kinds of cases, then land appreciation is not a problem, okay? Because it appreciated the day you got it. All right. So always remember to make your money when you buy. All right, private money, private lending. This is always a squirrely one because people are like, but JJ, you teach not to invest with debt. You teach not to have debt. Why would you talk about private lending? Because I know most of you are going to do it anyway. And I would rather you get the proper education on how to do it the right way. So we do have a private lending 101 class where we dig into this. I'm not going to dig super into this today because we are going to do that deep dive later in the year. But I am going to just kind of give you an overview of the two ways that you can execute a private lending deal. Private lending, one way you can do it is a real estate investor takes private lending from individuals and applies it to their property. So this person puts in 50, that person puts in 20, or maybe they're taking it from just one private lender, or maybe they're having 10 investors each come in at 10,000. That's 100,000 to work with. In many markets, you can buy and renovate a house with $100,000 to work with, right? So so that's one type of private lending. I, as the investor, have you come in and fund my deal. Okay. And so when I got started, that's something we did. And I actually, in our deep dive, like not the public deep dive, but the deep dive, the workshop, I should call it a workshop. I actually give you my private lending slides that we used back in the day. I walk you through the presentation and I give you the slides so you can customize them for yourself. If you're interested in that, you make sure you find that schedule in the Build Wealth with JJ Facebook group, and then you will be able to find out how to do it and then get into that workshop, and you'll get the paperwork, the slides, the customizable slides, and all the things. Okay. The flip side of that is if you are somebody who is retiring or retired and you might have a lot of money in your 401k or in your IRA, and you can direct those funds into a self-directed IRA, now you can become a private lender. Often in real estate, the people who are private lenders are hard money lenders. I lend you the money so that you can do your real estate flip, and then you're going to pay me back in 2 months. I'm going to charge you super high interest because I'm giving you the convenience of using my money for your flip. It's a win-win. Personally, I'm not a super big fan of lending, of borrowing, but I will note, I'm still praying about this, but I will note that the Bible says don't borrow, but then it gives instructions for the right way to lend. So I'm gonna do some prayer and some study on that, and we're gonna see about that. Now, I may not want to be a private lender. I may not want to risk you not knowing what you're doing and flip a house and lose all my money. Okay. But one area of lending that I am very interested in learning next, and I'm so excited to have a local mentor. So if you are in the DFW Metroplex, if you're in Granbury or Stephenville, you have got to become a part of the West DFW REIA. Our group is fantastic, and I facilitate the women's group every fourth Monday. Y'all, one of our sponsors, she is a note buyer and she can teach you how to buy notes, and that's what I want to talk to you about next. Okay, so note buying is where you buy a loan from a bank or other lender, usually an underperforming note. Now, you can still buy one that's performing, but you're going to pay more for that because they're making money off of it, right? So you're taking that out of their portfolio. They want money. Okay. But a lot of times you're going to buy underperforming notes. And there's a lot of different things you can do to get that note performing again. What do I mean by underperforming? An underperforming note simply means the people are not paying what they're supposed to. The folks that bought the house can't make their payments, or they're not making enough payments. They're not making them on time regularly. They're racking up, a lot of fees and issues, and they're basically becoming a headache for the lender. Okay. That's your underperforming note. Some lenders don't mind. I have real estate investor colleagues who really don't mind if you pay them late every month because they get the late fees and they're okay with that as long as they get paid, right? Others have a lower tolerance. A lot of banks want to get paid. So if you're not paying after a while, they'll be very happy to sell that loan and cut their losses. Okay. When you get that loan, when you get this note, so basically now what you have is you have this note that says these people are supposed to pay you for this house. And if they don't, you can take the house as collateral. Okay. If the people can't pay, you can try and restructure the note. You can say, oh, sir, oh, ma'am, you are supposed to pay $1,000 a month. We have this fabulous new program that we are going to enroll you in. We're going to restructure your loan, and you're only going to have to pay $500 a month. And then you can work with them on that, extend the loan terms, however it works. And then you can either resell it or just collect the money. Okay. A lot of really great advantages to note buying. Okay. Because there are because it's a very lucrative thing. To me, I like anything that can be a win-win. Okay. But you have to watch out also for the pitfalls. I talked earlier about getting wiped. If you buy a note, especially if you're buying a second mortgage, you could be wiped by the foreclosure or bankruptcy, and then you may not get what you're supposed to get. Some bankruptcies, they still have to pay you, but some bankruptcies they don't. Okay. The other thing about note buying is it's a learn by experience thing. There's somebody out of Dallas that has a big old course on it, but for the most part, the people that I know who buy notes, they were taught by other people who buy notes. Okay. There are some companies that sell them, but you want to find a note buyer. And again, if you're in the DFW Metroplex, I got somebody for you. Okay. So the best thing that one of the cool things about note buying is once you do one right and you're easy to work with, you will get deluged with as many notes as you want to buy. Okay. So make sure that you get some education, you contact with people who have done it before, and you make sure that you are easy to work with so they'll want to keep working with you. All right. We are rounding third, and we are about to slide into home. Deal making is on this list because a lot of times people feel like, I don't know how to find properties, I don't know how to negotiate properties, I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to do that. But if you know how to put together this person who needs a service with that person who offers the service, then you can profit from deal making in real estate. You know, if you find numbers that work, a property will always sell fast. And if you have built relationships with enough investors, you will almost always have somebody who can make a deal work. This is where your relationships and your networking is so important. Not only does it help you move forward, but it also helps you uncover the hidden gems that don't show up in the MLS or that don't show up with the for sale sign out front. Now, I'm going to let you in on the investor's secret weapon. Would you like to know what the investor's secret weapon is? Let me tell you what the investor's secret weapon is. The investor's secret weapon, drum roll, is other investors. Other investors. And so it's good to learn from someone like me who has your best interest at heart. For those of you who are coming in a little late, I am a fee-only fiduciary financial planner. That means when I give you financial advice, I don't get any profit off of that. You have already paid me up front to be your advisor as far as how to spend your money, how to work these investments, whether this investment is going to help you achieve your goals, and to analyze those kinds of things. See, there are a lot. Let me just do an aside, y'all. There are a lot of people out there that call themselves financial planners and financial advisors. And I have found out recently that a lot of people are even using the term fiduciary to describe themselves because it makes people feel more comfortable. But a fiduciary is somebody who is legally obligated. If I call myself a fiduciary, I am legally obligated to have your best interest at heart when I am giving you recommendations, which means I am not going to recommend you go into this fund or you go into that real estate deal if it's not the best for you. Why do people do that? Because it puts money in their pocket. I am also fee only, which means that you pay me to help you. And you can't pay me, you volunteer pay me to help you, or you do some kind of barter pay to help you. Somehow you are paying me to help you. And because you're paying me to help you, I'm not getting paid by other people. I'm not getting paid by the insurance companies. I'm not getting paid by the brokerage houses. If I was getting paid by the insurance companies and the brokerage houses, I might be swayed to say, well, this is good enough for them and it puts 4,000 extra dollars in my pocket this month, so I'm going to put them that way. Okay? I'm a fee only fiduciary financial planner. I'm going to tell you the right things. And from my analysis, I'm going to tell you your best courses of action. I'm going to look at your situation, figure out where you want to go. Here's the different ways you can get there: easy way, hard way, fast way, slow way, options in the middle. Okay. But even as amazing as I am not in every local jurisdiction. Okay. I am not in every courthouse. I don't know everybody's rules. So the important thing for all investors is to find other investors who are in their area. I want you to look for a real estate investment association, REIA, or some of them are called real estate investment groups, REIG. This is where investors come together to learn about real estate, investing, market trends, legal trends. Okay. Many of these will have deal making sessions where you can sell or buy your properties, and it help you connect with investor friendly trades, investor friendly realtors. Not everybody is investor friendly stagers, investor friendly fill in the blank. Okay. Also, when you go to these meetings, you can take your time before you jump into a deal to get to know who's really moving and shaking and who's just shaking and baking. All right. My very first real estate meeting was out in Bowie, Maryland, Sherman Ragland's group. I was so excited, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Oh, I'm going to be a millionaire with real estate. I had watched at the time my mother-in-law had just acquired a property through tax sales. I think she had acquired two by the time I went to my first meeting. I was like, I can do that. Oh, I was so inspired. And I got to the meeting and Larry Goins got up and talked about all this stuff that he had. And then he sold this $600 class. And I was like, later on, I bought that $600 class. It was worth its weight in gold, y'all. But at the time, I was just like, ah. And so I'm talking to other investors after the meeting, and I'm so excited about everything. And I talked to this guy who says, oh, yeah, I love this group. I have spent $80,000 on my real estate education. I've bought $80,000 worth of courses. And I was like, wow, how many houses have you bought? Do you know what he said? Who wants to guess what he said? Drop it in the chat if you want to guess what he said. Ooh, somebody gets it right, I'm going to cash app you some cash. What do you think he said? What do you think he said? Now, if you've heard me say this for the last 3 years, you know you don't qualify because you already know. Let me tell you what he said. He said, I haven't bought any houses yet. I just felt like my education was not complete. But this class today, I'm going to go ahead and buy this class today. And I think this is the missing piece. Y'all, he had spent $80,000. It was about to spend $600 more on Larry Goins' program. He had spent $80,000 on his education. And back then, you could buy a property for $25,000, not in the hood, and fix it up and get it on the market. He could have learned by example 3 times over for what he had spent on his real estate education. And I guarantee you do 3 deals, by then you will have a real estate education. If you do them according to these principles that I've taught you today, you will have money in your pocket as well. That's what I like. So it's very important to know who's who. Now, you might be saying, well, JJ, that sounds good, but there's no way I'm going to go to this meeting and these people are going to actually show me how to do it. Why would anybody train their competition? For one, the golden rule, karma. It's good. It's good. When you get older and you have a lot of stuff, when you get older and you have a lot of stuff, you realize that stuff isn't the only thing, and you want to be able to leave a legacy. And part of that is through mentoring. It's also very profitable. The real estate investor associations, they are businesses. They will sell stuff. I recommend you don't buy it all, but they will sell stuff, right? Well, here's the real reason that a lot of people do real estate mentoring. Because if you've got juicy deals, who are you going to go through first to analyze them? If you've got juicy deals, you're going to go to your mentor first to analyze them. And if you can't buy the deal, if you can't execute the deal, guess who will? It's a win-win. You get education and they get access to properties they otherwise wouldn't find. Okay. So now you know my dirty little secret, y'all. Now you know how I can profit from teaching people free real estate classes. It helps me fulfill my calling of equipping God's peoples, and they bring me deals. It's a win, 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 win. I like the win, win, win. Y'all, I hope that you have enjoyed this class today. Now, I would normally at this point tell you I've got a sales thing or something I'm selling or something I want you to do. If you like what you're hearing, I do want you to do join the group in the link that I have there, jjclink.com/group. But before I go, I want to warn you about a scam. Okay. So jjclink.com/group. I'm not selling a real estate specific thing today. If you're new to me and my body of work, normally at the Thursday real estate class, I would be selling you into a workshop on whatever our topic is today. So that workshop would go deep into the topic, but these are the overviews. I'm not selling anything in the overviews, but you can join the group program and get your questions answered. Okay. So scam, I want you to watch out for. A lot of RIAs, not most, but there are a lot of scams. And I'm not saying something's a scam just because they charge you, okay? It's normal to pay a membership fee and to pay for hands-on mentorship. That is normal. In fact, if somebody wants to mentor me and they're not charging me in a real estate investment association, I kind of wonder why. I'm not the kind of personality that just gels well enough with everybody that everybody just wants to ooh and ah and help me, right? Like that's not ever been my personality, you know. It's normal and accepted to pay something, you know, depending on your market. RIA fees for the ones that I'm involved in still are anywhere from $50 up to $350 a year. Okay, that's normal. All right. There are some that charge thousands. They charge thousands, and then the people in them have not done even a single deal. Okay. That's not necessarily a scam, but here's what to look for in a scam. Okay. In a RIA scam, you have to pay before you even get to see how they do or what they do. Now, I'm not saying a RIA should let you into all their meetings. The juiciest meetings should be reserved for members. The juiciest meetings, like in Maria, they have the landlords group, they had the ladies group, they have there was a contractors group, they don't call it the sharks, but it's like Shark Tank. Basically, you bring your deals to the experienced investors who might JV with you. They analyze their deal, and if they like your deal, they'll fund it. Like, how cool is that, right? Well, you don't want to just give that to everybody off the street. They'll waste your time with a bunch of useless questions, and you won't be able to move forward. So some things should be behind a paywall, but you should be able to go to your first meeting and see how they do business, okay? And if they don't want to let you see how they do business, that's probably a scam. Okay. The next thing to look out for in a scam is you go to a meeting and there's no content. It's just a sales pitch. All right. Now let's review the model. It's the same kind of model I use, just on a smaller scale than in a big meeting. Okay. The model is somebody comes to the meeting and they teach. When they're done teaching, they sell something. I'm not selling anything today because this is an overview class, but in the future, when I do a deep dive, if I teach on tax sales, I'm going to have a workshop on tax sales. I'm going to sell a workshop. If you want to know more, we'll dig into it. I don't want to do that here. We'd be here all night, and you may not be interested like that in tax sales, right? That's the model. The person comes to the real estate group meeting. They teach you some things that you can implement. They offer you an opportunity to dig deeper and learn more with them. That is a valid model. But some places get in there and they don't give you any content. All they do is talk about, yeah, I had this person do this and this person made $1 million and that person. And if you sign up with me, I'll show you how to do it. A reputable RIA might have a one-off speaker that kind of threw a curveball in and did their own thing. But for the most part, the reputable speakers on the national circuit, they are going to give you something actionable. They're going to give you something you can use. Now they may not give you all the details of how, but they'll give you enough to have some level of success. Okay. If they don't do that, if it's just fluff and promises, that's not a group you want to be in. Another red flag for scams is if there's no room for real questions. And again, I'm not knocking the model. You want to ask questions of me on this? I forgot to put it on the bottom. I've got 3 ways you can ask questions during this, but not tonight because I forgot to put it down there. You can drop them in the chat. You can actually, I did not share StreamYard today because I wasn't sure how late we were going to go. But normally I'll either share StreamYard or a phone dial option where you can ask your questions. You can go to Ask JJC if you want to be anonymous, right? So those are ways you can ask questions. I understand we can't answer everybody's question in a free forum. I'll stay on these classes till the last question is answered. So if you have questions, better drop them in the chat now because we're about to be done. All right. If you don't ask a question now, I won't stay. So if you have a question, drop it in the chat now. But but I understand you can't answer everybody's question. You got a free meeting with 200 people in it. You'd be there all night. And really, as somebody who invests, I don't want to go to the investor meeting to hear the same newbie question 20 times, right? I want to hear deep questions that require deep answers that actually get me started. So some of that, again, might be in the closed sessions. But if every time you ask a question like, okay, can you tell me a little bit about the property analyzer that comes with my membership? Well, once you log in, you'll see how amazing it is. That doesn't answer my question because your definition of amazing may not be my definition of amazing. I need to know exactly what am I getting. Is it going to pull up property values? Is it going to analyze this? Is it going to go into the tax records and pull up what the tax was paid and what it was, how much is owed on it? Like, I need to know the details. If you ask a lot of questions that they should be able to answer with details, and it's always just buy this, just buy this, just buy this. We'll answer this when you buy this. Then you probably want to stay away from that group. Now, I'm going to distinguish that from what I said earlier. I said earlier, you want to be in part of my wholesaling deep dive. We're going to do a wholesaling deep dive. I'm going to give you the contracts and everything. You want to be part of my private lending deep dive when we teach the public class on it? Sign up for the deep dive. You're going to get all the slides that you can customize. That's different. I'm telling you what you're going to get. You don't have to buy it. It is not going to hurt my feelings if you don't buy my course. Some of you on this today are going to be like I was when I was $845,000 in debt. It didn't matter how much I wanted your help. It didn't matter how much I wanted your product. It didn't matter how much I wanted your course or your book. I couldn't put food on the table. There was no way I was going to pay. But I was going to take what you gave me, and I took what they gave me and I did something with it, and I earned enough money to be able to go and dig deeper and finally buy the $600 course and the $3,000 course and the $10,000 course and the $18,000 course. My, Lord help me. All right. So you really want to look for that. And another one, and this broke my heart because I'm just going to have to tell you the story. So I lived in the DC area, and then I moved away and I came back. And when I was in the DC area, a member of Sherman Ragland's group, I found out later it was actually his wife, but a member of Sherman Ragland's group started a group for real estate in Northern Virginia. Well, because I worked in Northern Virginia and it was easier for me to get there on the weeknight than it was because traffic was so bad getting home to Maryland. Because it was easier for me to get there, I liked the group. And so we would support it. And I really liked her. She was very personable. Well, when I moved back, she wasn't doing that group anymore. It was another lady doing a Northern Virginia group. And they were both kind of similar. And this was years. I wasn't planning on moving back, you know, and it was years later. And they both looked very similar, but she was teaching this class and I bought into it without even analyzing because in my mind, it was the same lady. It was at the same hotel, same time, same everything. I don't know if she took over the group or if that one disbanded and she said, they disbanded. I'm popping it in their place. I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that. But I bought the membership and I brought people with me because I thought it was part of Sherman Ragland's group, even though he wasn't there. I thought it was the same lady. Both of their names started with C. And then I get in the group and they get up and say, oh, and our website does this, 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 and this. And I'm like, day one, your website doesn't do all that. A month later, website does this, 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 and this. And I'm like, your website still doesn't yet. 6 months later, I'm like, when are they going to get back to what they used to do, which was actually teach us how to invest instead of all these sales pitches? And finally, I'm like, your website doesn't work. And the one guy's like, yeah, it hasn't worked in 2 years. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Think about the mentality of somebody who knows that the website hasn't worked in 2 years, but is going to get up and sell you into it anyway. Whether it's the person who owned it and was selling it, or whether it's the people that are working behind the table to collect your money, that's an ethical issue that I have a problem with. And I don't want to give money and do business with people who aren't going to come correct on their promises. Now, if it's a tweak or an issue and it's being fixed and it's going to be fixed and we're going to get it fixed and we're going to get it fixed, fine. But it hasn't worked in 2 years. You ain't planning on doing that. Now, I will say, if you missed my beginning spiel about gurus, a lot of people buy products, they buy courses, they never do anything with them. And that's what a lot of these people are counting on, that you're not going to do anything with them. I want to encourage you to be the person that actually utilizes it. Don't just listen to me tonight. Take what I've said tonight, research for yourself. Go drive around and look for properties that you might be able to talk to the owner and see if they'd sell at a discount. Or go look at properties that are being for sale and talk to the owner and see if you can get them down. If you go do research about what the needs are in your community. These are all actionable things that you can do today that can put money in your pocket tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. Okay? I want you to remember something. It is never too late to dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy. Yeah, when we're young, we have a lot of time, we got a lot of energy, and we got a lot of strength. But many of us today, we're a little bit more mature. But one thing we have going for us, we've got our experience, our judgment, and our ability to network. And with that, I hope that you have enjoyed my Real Estate Investing 101. Tonight, we've covered over 20 ways that you can profit from real estate, even if you never buy the house. Now, if you like what you heard, I want you to not only be back next Thursday for the next class, but I also want you to consider joining my group program. We do group coaching every first Tuesday. And if you can't be there live, you can submit your question. I'll answer it as if you were live. And then everybody who was either in the class or sends in a question will get the recording. It's a wonderful program, and it is probably the most cost-effective I've ever done, because I really am trying to help people raise the floor in 24. All right. I think that's it for tonight. I'm going to check my comments real quick and just make sure I'm not missing anybody. I think I covered everybody that I see. So whether you are on LinkedIn or in Facebook or on YouTube or however you are watching this or hearing me on the podcast, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being with me. Your most precious resource is your time, and I don't take it lightly that you chose to spend your time with me tonight. I'm JJ Conway. You can find me at JJ Knows the Way on most social media. Now remember, the only reason I know the way is because I know the one who is the way. And if you want to make a change today, it's time for us to sit down and talk, because I can show you how to get where you want to go, thanks to those who have poured into my life, and I'm happy to pour into yours. Y'all take care and be blessed.